Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how to clean oil painting brushes with nothing more than oil and Murphy's oil soap. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll give you 2 tips that can save you a lot of time and money. So let's go ahead and get started. Hey everybody, I'm Brian McCormick and this is Gallery Bry, where you can see weekly videos on oil painting, gouache painting, and even digital painting in Procreate. So if you want to improve your painting skills, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss the videos that come out every week. So with that, let's go ahead and clean some brushes. Okay, so the first step is you want to wipe all of the excess paint off of your brush, either using a paper towel or a rag. And I know it might seem wasteful, but it's really going to make sure that the oil that you're cleaning your brush with lasts a really long time. So you want to make sure you get all that excess paint off so that the oil doesn't turn into sludge very quickly. You want to keep the oil as clean as possible so it lasts as long as possible for you. Alright, so now you want to get yourself some oil to clean your brushes. I personally like safflower oil because it dries very slowly, but you can also use walnut oil. And you want to make sure that you use artist grade oils instead of cooking oils because they're free of impurities, and the oils that you use for cooking typically are very slow drying or non-drying oils. So you don't want to use something like olive oil. You might be thinking to yourself, I'm not going to pay the extra money to go get that artist grade oil. I'm just going to use the olive oil I have in my cupboard. I thought the same thing, but because the olive oil does not really dry, if it gets into your paint when you're mixing your colors, it can really impact the integrity of your paint layers. So you don't want to use cooking oils. Okay, so now that you have the oil that you want to use, the next step is to just dip your brush into the oil. What I like to do is gently press the brush against the side of the jar. You don't want to stab the brush down at the bottom of the jar because that can force pigments up into the ferrule and damage your brush over time. So you just want to just work the brush very gently and slowly get all of that pigment out. Now for me, 1 jar is enough. I don't really worry about the oils getting dirty because I don't need to have my paintbrushes super clean. But if you want a very clean brush, you can use 2 jars. You can use the 1 jar to get the majority of the paint off of your brush, and then once you've wiped out the majority of the pigment, you can then take that and you can dip it into the second jar that's a clean jar of oil to make sure that you get the cleanest brush possible. Alright, so I have a really good tip for you. These aren't the 2 tips at the end of the video. You're going to want to stick around for those. But brush washing can be a real pain. And so what I do is I don't wash my brushes. So you might think that that's a little crazy, but what I do is I just dip them in oil after I'm done painting. I paint every day, so I'm usually going to use the brush the next day. I wipe off the brush, I dip it in oil, and that's pretty much it. I tend to have different brushes for different colors and values. So I'll have a brush for my darks, a brush for my midtones, and a brush for my highlights. That way I don't have to worry about the colors getting mixed up too much. And when I'm done painting, I just dip it in the oil and I set it down and I leave it there for the next day. It's going to save your brush, it's going to save you a lot of time and frustration, and it's going to keep your brushes looking really good for a really long time. Okay, so before we get to the next option for washing brushes, I want to hear from you guys. Do you clean your brushes every time? Do you dip them in oil and leave them for the next day? I'd be really curious to hear any kind of frustrations that you guys have with cleaning your brushes, and I'd be happy to help, so leave those in the comments. So if you don't want to dip your brushes in oil, and if you don't paint every day and you need to set them aside for a couple weeks, then you probably want to wash them with soap and water. But you don't want to do it with something harsh like a Dawn dish detergent. You want to do it with something gentle like Murphy's oil soap or even hand bar soap. You know, basically anything that you would use on your own body is probably safe to use on the hairs in your brushes. So the first thing that you want to do is work a lather into your hand and gently work the brush around in the palm of your hand. Keep doing this until you see no pigment left and the lather is clean and there's no pigment coming out of the brush. And then you want to make sure that you get all of the soap out of the brush. The last thing you want is soap getting into your oil paint because it can impact the integrity of your oil paint layers further down the road. And whenever you start painting again with these brushes, you also want to make sure that they're very dry. You want to make sure that the water is completely out of them because that can also impact the integrity of your paint layers. Now it's time to give you guys those 2 tips that I was talking about earlier. But before I do, if you are getting any value out of this video, please consider giving this video a like. It definitely helps this video become more visible to people like yourself that would like to learn how to oil paint. So let's go ahead and get on to those tips. The first tip is if you have any paint that is getting stuck around the ferrule of your brush, you don't want to do anything drastic to it. Don't use a razor or anything that can damage your brush. Use a toothbrush. It's firm enough that it can scrape off some hardened on paint, and it's soft enough that it's not going to damage your brush. This will keep your brush lasting longer, and it'll keep you from having to buy new paintbrushes all the time. This is my favorite tip. You can reuse the oil that you use to clean your brushes just like you would a turpentine or a solvent. Whenever you feel that it's getting too sludgy, you can set it aside for a couple weeks and all of the pigment will settle to the bottom. You can either use the same jar and just dip your brushes in it, or you can strain off the top of the oil into a new jar so that you can use it to clean your brushes again. Hopefully those were some helpful tips for you. If you want to see more videos like this every week, you can click right here on this round subscribe icon to subscribe to videos. And if you want to see some more videos like this, you can click over here. So hope you guys are doing well. We'll talk to you soon.